Hey guys, do you want to know how to model all the common types of dice we see on the D&D table? Maybe you want to model some less common types of dice. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. Believe it or not, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but I failed geometry. I almost didn't pass high school math because it was boring. It was just way too boring. Luckily, my computer science teacher let me program a video game to pass math and pass high school, but I'm just letting you guys know it doesn't take a math genius to learn how to do all this 3D modeling. There aren't going to need to be crazy numbers and angles we're going to have to work. Now, one thing I am not going to show you how to do is I'm not going to show you how to put the numbers onto the die. I have a video up here in this direction that shows my technique for doing it. It's a little bit more in-depth. It takes a little bit of knowledge in Blender. If you want to know some of the other ways of putting numbers onto the die and other designs onto the die, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know that people actually care about this, and I will do my best to make a video about it. All right, so let's start off with the basic dice that we all know and love. These are called platonic shapes. Whoa. And what I mean is that they're not in a committed relationship, they're just friends. Actually, what I mean is that these platonic shapes all have equal sides, equal edges, equal angles. So everything is equal. And I guess there are like only 5 of these. And they happen to be 5 that we use for dice all the time in Dungeons and Dragons. All right, platonic dice are really easy to make. Actually, super easy to make. There is an add-on that comes with Blender. So you're going to go up into the edit button, into preferences, and then we're going to search extra, and you'll see this, add mesh extra objects. That is what we're looking for. Enable that. All right, so we can go to add mesh. Now a new thing that we got is called a math function. And we're gonna make a regular solid. Add one of the platonic, Archimedean, or Catalan solids. Right? What were we talking about? The dice are called platonic. So we can do that. Regular solid. And down here on the bottom, we have the tetrahedron, which is a D4. Hexahedron, also known as a cube, a D6. An octahedron, this is a D8. Dodecahedron, which is a D12. And lastly, an icosahedron. Icosahedron. Icosahedron? Well, whatever it is, that's a D20. Boom. There's another way of making a D20 if you want to. We can go to add, mesh, and an icosphere. And we change this number down in the subdivisions to 1. This is also a D20. We did it. Yay. The cool thing about the isosphere is Plato thought that like these shapes made up the universe. Well, interestingly enough, we now know that they do, in the sense that you can make any shape with these am I trying to say? Polygons. So if we wanted to, we got a D20 here. One thing we can actually do, we add a mesh, we add an isosphere. We can actually make a D80. We're subdividing it twice. It's basically just that D20, but cut. Each face is cut in half, or cut into 4 parts. Okay, and now we can do 3. It's a D320. It's a possibility. This would be a fun one to make. I think this would be the limit of what you can do. I don't think you could do a D1280. Which, I mean, go for it. It's gonna take a lot of effort to put a number in each one of these. But that is our platonic solids. Super easy. Mesh, math function, regular solid. They're just right here. Easy enough. Let's make more complicated things. Yay! Okay, so now that we've covered the platonic solids, let's look at a different kind of dice. Boom. And actually, we can use the D8 here to illustrate this. What I have here is a D10 and a D8. You notice the D10 has 5 on the top, and the D8 has 4 on the top, and they're kind of mirrored top to bottom. They're like pyramids, mirrored top to bottom. With these shapes, you can basically make any even numbered sided die you want to. Right? If you wanted to make a D12, even though a D12 is a platonic solid, you could make a D12, just make this 6 sides, and you would have something that would look kind of like a cross between these two. Now here's an important thing to understand. Notice on the D10, they are not a perfect mirror. The bottom row of the D10 has been offset. Do you see that? Does that make sense? That's because here I made a D10 that's not been offset. When you lay the D10 that hasn't been offset down, look, there's an edge on the top. So anytime you have an odd number on the top and bottom, you need to offset this. So let's talk about how to create these shapes in Blender. Woo! All right, so now we are going to make what is called a trapezoidal style dice, or what I like to call the pyramids stacked on top of each other. So these are dice like the D10, by extension, a D12, D14, a D16, a D18, a D20, a D22, a D24. You get the idea. We can make any even number sided dice starting from, actually, you make a D6? You could make a D6, but it would be ugly and wouldn't look very good, and have to be really short and stubby. So I would say from a D8 onwards, you can make using this. So there's a simple formula. Let's say we want to make a D16. We're going to add a mesh. We're going to add a circle. And then right here in the vertices, for making a D16, we need half the number. If you're making a trapezohedron, with a certain number of sides, and you divide that number of sides by 2, you get an even number. The number of vertices you need at this step is half the number of sides that you're going to use. If it is an odd number, you need to put in the vertices here the same number as the number of sides you're making. And you'll see why in a few minutes. We're making a D16. 16 divided by 2 is 8, which is even. So we are going to use half the number, which is 8. Okay? So we have this 8-sided circle. We're going to go to edit mode. Vertex mode here, everything's selected. We're going to hit fill. We're going to go to face. We're going to say poke faces. And that's going to put a dot right in the middle, and it's going to add edges all the way to each vertex that we have. We're going to go ahead and select that dot. We're going to hit grab Z so we can move upwards. And really you can make this, tall and pointy, short and stubby. I think I'm going to just type in 1,000 here. That looks pretty good. These are not to scale yet. Usually I like to make them and then size them to scale. So now we're going to select the ring of vertices again. I'm doing that by holding down Alt as I select 2 of these vertices. Just going to select the ring. We're going to fill that again. We're going to face. We're going to poke this face. Now we're going to just select that middle vertex. We're going to grab Z and then negative the same number we used before. 1,000. Bam. So here we go. This is a D16. Now, let's say we want to make a D18. You would think that the steps would be the same, but the D18, when you divide it by 2, is an odd number. So let's talk about what happens when you get an odd number 1, when you divide it by 2. We're going to add a mesh, add a circle. We're making a D18, so we're actually going to need 18. 18 vertices instead of just 9. Okay. Now we're going to go into edit mode. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to fill it. We're going to face and we're going to poke the face. We're going to grab that center and we're same steps here. 1,000. Do the same thing on the bottom here. Hold down Alt. Here we are. Fill. Face. Poke the face. Poke the face. Grab Z. Negative 1,000. Bam. Okay. Wait a minute. This is a 36-sided dice. Uh-oh. This isn't a D18. Well, we have a few other steps that we need to make. First thing we're going to do is we're going to select every other one of these. Okay. And now we're going to grab. We're going to move them on the Z-axis. We want to move these up just a little bit. So I'm going to try 100. No, that might be too much. Let's try 50. 50 looks pretty good. Sweet. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select every other one. Oops. Now we're going to move these ones down. Z minus 50. Okay. Now we're going to go to edge mode up here. Vertice, edge, face mode. And we're going to select all of these faces. And we're going to hit X, dissolve edges. And then we're going to do the same on the bottom. And you can see which ones I'm selecting. I'm selecting the ones that are concave. X, dissolve edges. Now, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 sides on either side. And because when this lands on this face, the opposite face is also going to be flat. That's why we had to offset it. If we didn't offset it, the opposite face would be an edge. Would be like this with an edge, and that wouldn't work. So that's how you make a D10. Let's see, going up would be a D10, a D14, a D18, a D22. You get the idea. So that's the technique, and just follow that formula. And you can make these as big as you want, right? You can make a D20 like this. You can make a D100 like that. Whatever you want. Sky's the limit. There will eventually be a limit to what you can read. Eventually these faces get so small. All right, there's one thing that we need to add when we're talking about this particular shape. When we deleted the edge here, watch what happens. Even though it's not there actually right now, it is there in spirit, kind of. Basically what happens is that a shape like this, whenever we're making an offset shape like this is a hypothetical shape. It can't actually exist. And what ends up happening is that 3D software will add in that edge. Okay, so how do we fix that? Now, if you're doing my technique of putting in the numbers with a multi-resolution modifier, that's going to take care of itself. It's going to be all right. Usually that means adding a multi-resolution modifier, subdividing it. And what we can see that happens here, see how there's actually more mesh in there? Oh, let's see, that's not a good way of seeing it. You can see how there's a little bit more edges. So if you're doing my technique, doing that, what happens is, watch. We will get better and better. And there we go. Basically, that's just adding geometry into there. So I'll show you in wireframe mode. This is the geometry as it exists. I'm going to apply this modifier. That's the geometry now. See how it added a lot more detail? Because these are all a little concave. So we're adding some extra geometry in there to make up for that. Make sure everything is nice and smooth. And that's how we do it. So if you're just making this shape and you're not using my way of putting in numbers, you're going to have to add either a multi-resolution modifier, use the simple mode there, or a simple mode in the subdivision surface modifier. And actually, this can be kind of nice around the edges too. Look at that. or simple mode will give you straight edges. So that's just an important thing with just this shape. These shapes, whenever you're doing one of these with the offset up and down, so where you divide it and you have an odd number, you have to add a modifier like this in order to make it actually print normally. Otherwise, it will add that line that we deleted. Now here is another one that I get a lot of questions about, is how do we make the shard dice? These are pretty cool. They're also really simple. You notice this is the same shape as a D8, just the end has been pulled longer. So I'll show you how to make this real quick. All right, let's make this D4. So we're going to make a D8 using that math function we love so much to make the platonic solids. Let's see, a regular solid. Octahedron, already selected, sweet. Edit mode, we grab that top vertice, we hit Z, we hit G, then Z, and we pull it upwards. However high we want to make it, there we are. All right, let's make a couple of other random dice that you might want to make. These are just for fun. So we're going to add an object. We're going to add a cube. Bam. Alrighty. We're going to go to into edit mode. We're going to go to face. We're going to say poke faces. Look at that. So we got a center on each. We're going to go ahead and select the center on each one of these. Okay. Now, we're going to go to Mesh, Transform, Shrink, Flatten, and now when you move your mouse, this will happen. And you need a shape that's kind of like a circle, the most circular shape you can get. And this is a D24. It's just kind of an oddball shape that just ends up working out. I think there are some other things where you can take the platonic solids and you can do the same sort of thing if you want to. Faces do get really small, but this D24 is probably a little bit easier to roll than the D24 done the other way in the isohedron with the mirror symmetry. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's do another interesting one. This is one of my favorites. We're going to add a cube and go to edit mode. All right, and now we're going to hit Control R. See how that has a line that goes there? I'll tilt it sideways so you can see it better. All right, so Control R will give you a line, and then you use your scroll wheel to scroll to. I'm just going to hit enter and enter. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing across the bottom as well. Enter, enter. All right. So I've divided. It looks kind of like a Rubik's Cube, right? I'm going to go ahead and select these edges. I'm going to delete that vertex, all those vertices. I'm going to select these vertices. Delete those vertices. Okay. Now we're going to go to the other side. And we're going to delete the top row. the bottom row. So we have deleted the opposites. I'm going to go ahead and select the inner ones here, and I'm going to say dissolve vertices. Hit X, dissolve vertices. All right. Now you can select these 4 dots on the top and connect them using the F button for fill. And then we can connect the sides. Bam, bam, bam. And then in object mode, we can go ahead and I might scale this along the X just to make it a little bit longer, skinnier. Right. We're gonna hit Control A. We're gonna apply all the transforms there. Back to edit mode. I'm gonna select the 2 faces on the outside here. We're going to do our poke the faces. And select the vertex on either side. We're going to go to mesh, transform, shrink, flatten, and move these out. We can move these out however much we want. And we do it kind of like that. And there we go. That is a D4. An interesting type of D4. It's pretty cool. Pretty easy to make. Okay, another one that people often get confused about are spin down. This is a spin down die. And you're like, well, hey, that's just a D20. Yes, it is. A spin down die is exactly a D20. Here's a similar size D20. They're the same thing. The only difference between a spin down and a D20 is because a spin down is designed to be used in, most commonly you'll see it used in Magic the Gathering, to count life total. So you start with 20, and the spin down, you can just rotate 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. See how it's easy just to spin down the numbers? That is not the case with the number order on a normal D20. See this? It kind of has some random numbers all around it. Now D20s do have like a formula for figuring out the numbers. What I would say is just look at a D20 that's already been made and just copy the numbers when you put in the numbers on. Spin down. Alright guys, I hope you liked that video. I hope you learned some stuff. I hope you go out and make all sorts of shapes and sizes of dice. I hope it inspires you. I hope to see everybody rolling D18s and D24s out there instead of the D20s and D6s. Those are boring. We can make cool stuff now. It is worth noting that if you use my technique in this video up here to put the numbers onto the dice, once we get up into the larger numbers of sides, it's really going to tax your computer. So there are some other methods. If you want to learn about that, make sure you hit like and subscribe. I'm already thinking that might be a video in the future. All right, guys, peace out. I am out.